Market Traders TV. Learn, make money, be happy.
We're going to go through the NASDAQ 100 here on stream. Give you guys an idea of what I kind of do for the tier 3 subs every week. So I think a lot of you guys don't even realize that we offer this as a service. I don't know if we should do this with poly on or poly off though. I'm contemplating it. Maybe we just do it on a weekly basis. What do you guys think? Just chat. You have any good thoughts? Weekly sounds good. Yeah, on weekly? Okay. Alright, so I think that's a good idea. We'll go through all the NASDAQ stocks on a weekly basis with my analysis plus poly and see how we do here. So starting off with Apple, you'll notice that we did reject the high range. So our expectation on Apple is if we lose this swing, our weekly swing that made this local high, our expectation is we go back to the relative trend start, which would be top of range right here at 150. And if failure of that, then previous all-time high swing test trend start of this at 143. So if lose this, we go here and here. That would obviously be a massive dump on Apple, but that would be the expectation. For now, Apple would be interesting if they do come down, hold this relative low, and look for that to continue higher. Test the upper range. On to Adobe. So we had a tier 3 entry on Adobe 3 weeks ago. That would now be done. Would have been a winning trade off of that swing. Didn't quite reach the top of the weekly. We did reject the swing that made it though, right here. So Adobe coming down and testing this trend start, which is this relative trend that we're in, makes a lot of sense at right where Poly's pointing out slightly below it, around 444. That would be our next level of interest on Adobe. ADI is at a level of potential support here, right above our last level gained. ADI losing this, and yeah, Poly actually points it out perfectly. It'd be a retest of this. And if failure on that, a retest of start of trend. It's also previous all-time high here. So if not hold of 135, then we're looking at 122. If they don't hold this swing it's at right now. All right, ADP did make an all-time high, lost the low, gained it on a weekly on this buyback. So a retest of this weekly gain right here, holding a higher swing off that, potentially this low, would look good for a retest of the top swing. Be right there, slightly below the swing high there. If we do lose that, then all the way back down to our previous entry, which we had a tier 3 entry all the way back here in July of 2020 at 134. Autodesk lost a weekly, continues lower, so I would expect this to lose this range. We're testing it right now. We've seen nothing but lower lows and lower highs throughout range after rejecting, failing to make a new all-time high. So next spot to go, this one actually doesn't matter, is here. The upper range of the swing start, of the trend start, I mean. And if failure of that, same thing as the others, back down to the started trend. So 182. So lose this, and we'll see 182 to 143. So Align did break range as well. They did gain the weekly on this last move. A retest of that weekly would be our last spot of support here in this local range. This last weekly gain. And if not there, then I would expect lower to, yep, previous all-time high. Probably pointed out here. And if not that, then the start of the trend, which is at 321. So we have three ideas here. If they come down, test this. Expectation would be to go retest higher. If they lose that, we're looking here. And if they lose that, we have our next idea. Trend start. Applied Material made all-time high a month ago, and they actually haven't broken range. So we're at a weekly gain right now. So Applied Material on Monday could be an interesting long. You don't have a bad stop loss. Stop loss would be below this range. And if we lose that, then we're probably going to retest. Same thing as before, which will be trend start. All the way down to 58. AMD did gain this weekly, coming back down, holding this higher low off this swing at 105 would make sense. If not, then slightly above there. This, again, is the upper range of the trend start. This is the lower range. A lot of these are going to look very similar, by the way, boys. So we have an idea coming up on AMD at 105. If fail that, 93. Fail that, 74. So Amgen actually rejected top swing pretty nicely here and did gain a swing of support. So Amgen holding where it's at right now would make a lot of sense. If not, then back to the start of the trend that made the swing. So hold here. If not there, upper range of trend start. Notice a pattern. Amazon made a higher swing high in range. Did gain a weekly, but they're trying to lose it right now. And they actually did, yeah, they actually did technically lose it right there. So coming back down to this lower swing on Amazon, which would be a test of this. Makes a ton of sense. And if not there, then yeah, much lower. ANSYS holding higher lows, did lose this weekly. Pretty much the same thing on ANSYS. If we lose this swing, I actually wouldn't expect this to hold. And we'd be looking here at 250. And then below that here at 218 or so. ASML has not lost range. They have lost a weekly. This is the start of the trend that made the all-time high in this. So continuing down to this level at 540 makes sense. And if we lose that, go back to our previous entry. We did have an entry here back in November of 20. ATVI doesn't matter because it's been bought up by Microsoft. Okay, so Broadcom has gained this weekly swing. If they hold where it's at, then expect new all-time high. If they don't hold here, then expect to turn to the move that made the current all-time high, which is this. And that would be at 486. Baidu did gain a local weekly here after testing swing high. So holding where it's at, continue higher, expect to test top swing. Above that, test all-time high swing. If they don't hold here, then we have to hold a higher low here, or this goes much lower. And that would be somewhere in this range, around 100. Biogen losing levels. This thing is kind of a disaster. It looks like there's no reason for it to not go much lower. I mean, to go much lower. You know what I'm trying to say here. We do have kind of crappy weekly swing here, but yeah, I expect a dumpster fire on this. Booking Holdings failed to make a new all-time high. Oh, barely made a new all-time high this last week. I expect higher on this. If they do continue to reject, then coming back to test this local move at 23.45 makes sense. And if not there, then somewhere in this range around 21.50. BMRN, it did make a higher swing and look range, holding higher lows. This does look good for higher. Good spots to test at 106, then all the way up to all-time high test at 130 or so. Cadence did make a lower swing low, losing this level. Sorry, losing this trend here. So going back to trend start at 127 is our expectation. CDW failed to make the all-time high, rejected. They already tested the swing here, so expect it lower down to, yeah, right here. Paulie's pulling it out properly at 165. Cerner just at all-time high. Nothing to talk about with this. Checkpoint did make higher swing high in range. Yeah, I would expect this to go higher. If they do fail this level, sorry, if they do fail this, then coming back down here is an obvious spot for them to test at 110. But expectation on this is just all-time high. Charter gave a good swing test 3 weeks ago. They did not make a higher swing in range. Coming up and testing this swing at 644 and reject would make a lot of sense, and expect lower if they do break level down to where they started, 505. Comcast continues to make lower lows. I would like this much lower. We do have a major gap to fill around 44.80, and then back down to this lower range if they don't bounce the gap at 41 or so. Costco gained a swing after a pretty decent retest. Did not make new all-time high. Coming back down to the last level gained and bouncing off that would be a great idea. So 481 on Costco, and then continuing to all-time high would make sense. If they lose this swing, we have previous all-time high range, upper range swing test here. And then let's start. Copart did lose the swing that made the high, coming back down to 110. It makes a ton of sense. If they do break that, then back down to, yeah, this 80 range, which was our previous entry we had along here back in June of 2020. Cisco made all-time high, holding higher low. Testing this swing at 53 would be good. If they do lose this range, then it's just the same thing over and over. Upper range of trend start. CoStar Group is losing levels. We have lost this. Yeah, I'd expect this to come down to test this lower range all the way down to 52.80 or so, with a potential bounce at the upper spot. Always pointing out here at 59. CSX coming down to our last gain spot makes a lot of sense too. So a retest of 30.7 on CSX. We are losing. Cintas also lost. This is really close as well. Yeah, coming down to here at 352. Somewhere in this range. It's kind of a wide range, but it's a good spot on Cintas coming up shortly. Cognizant gained a swing. It's all-time high. Expect higher. Citrix. So Citrix did fail to make a swing high here. Didn't test top of swing yet. They have failed to hold this weekly. So we did lose this weekly move right here. This weekly move is lost. So expectation on this, if they do not gain, is back to the start of the trend, down to 79 to 83. Dollar Tree does have some gaps to fill, but they're holding higher low. This does kind of just good for higher. Dexcom lost the move that made the high. So coming back down to trend start. Makes sense. God, I'm going to sound like a broker record on this recording. 330. EA has done a whole lot of nothing. Technically, they did gain an interim weekly after a decent retest. Going back and testing all-time high swing would be good. eBay has lost. They are at a spot. They just put the spot 2 weeks ago, actually. This top level of trend. If they continue to lose, then we're looking at this part here at 53. And then potentially down to 47.30. Be this move. So if you don't hold here, here, and here. Exelon at all-time high. Expedia at all-time high. Just expect higher on these. So Fast is at its weekly test right now. If it gets below this, which kind of looks like it will, but if it does lose this swing, then we'd be expecting it to retest a range in here around 45 and then much lower. So if you lose this, expect somewhere in here. Facebook's been an absolute dumpster fire. They are at a weekly swing right now. Did have a trade idea on this one that I missed, and they did bounce it perfectly at 216. This box out of the way so you can read it better. 216 right here, so they did bounce out. This is kind of a must-hold spot on Facebook in this upper range. If they lose this, then we're looking all the way down to the start at 150 or so. Fiserv did lose this local swing. If they don't hold here, then yeah, coming down to 87 or so, and potentially much lower. I'm getting some lag. Fox did make a higher swing high in local range. We have had two or three entries on this. One back in July of 21, another one recently in November of 21. Coming down to our last weekly level gained. Coming down to here and bouncing, making new all-time high. Would make sense to me. Sorry, I'm lagging a bit here. Okay, Gilead at the upper range of this local trend. If they lose this level here, then all the way down to where they started, 57. Google coming back down into our last little gain makes a lot of sense as well. At 2601, this one's pretty straightforward, at least it should be. Okay, IDEX did make a higher swing high in local range. Didn't quite test this last leg, but coming back down here where our last gain spot was at the start of this trend would be okay at 490. If they lose this low, I would expect much lower than this, honestly. Illumina, we have been losing, so we lost this swing right here. And we just lost this swing right here. So continuing lower, back down somewhere in here would make sense at 292. Insight coming up onto an interesting spot at 65.50. This local move that made this local swing high. So that opportunity should be coming up here this week, I would say. Intel trying to hold on to a higher low in this range. If they don't do that, then back down to 44.30. Intuit didn't make a swing low. They did lose this all-time high move. If they hold here, expectation would be for them to test the top at 640 and then probably new all-time high. If they lose this swing, 411 and then much lower. Intuitive Surgical coming down to an interesting spot here. Holding this swing at 271 would make a lot of sense. If not, then we move down to where we started. Here. At 243. JD failed to make a swing high, is holding a higher low off swing. Got a lot of entries on this over the last year. Yeah, if they hold here, test top range. If they gain that, then probably just new all-time high. Kraft Heinz coming to a good spot here at 33.64. They did slightly double top, which is kind of crappy. But testing 33.50, 33.50, 33.64, that would be good. Should be making a higher low off of trend. KLA Corporation lost our move that made the high. There's two spots to test. Be this move and then the move that started it. So 332, the bottom of the range at 295. Liberty Global did make a higher high in this last week. If they do reject, give opportunity on Liberty Global at 26.50. We do currently have a long going on that one for the tier 3 subs. Lam Research lost the move that made the high. Coming back down to this swing would be good. Nice stop loss on that one too, 485 or so. Lulu at a spot right now. This is a good test. Holding higher low off this last swing. So this is our move right here. We're holding a higher low off of it. They're currently testing right now. So Lulu holds this range. Expect a retest of this. So hold 314 or so. Go test 390 or so. Marriott all-time high. Microchip lost this local move. Yeah, I expect this to continue down lower. So if we get below here, then test previous all-time high swing at 55.50 or so. Sorry, I'm lagging a bit. MBLZ made all-time high a month ago. It's holding upper range. Expect higher. If they do break this local swing, then yeah, a retest of this move that made the low here at 61, 59 to 61 makes sense. Melly is making lower lows in range. If they don't hold this, then get rid of that. Yeah, there's 2 spots to test. This previous all-time high right here at 760, and then here 500. Monster trying to hold a higher low swing. They did lose this local move after a failure to make all-time high rejection. Coming back down here, if we do make a lower low to 76, be a good spot. Microsoft at a spot as well. Technically, they did lose this move. So this is a must-hold spot of Microsoft if they don't hold there. And we have this range all the way down to 250, 247. Micron tested swing high, rejected, all-time high swing test rejection. Yeah, if they continue to reject, come back down to where they started at 79. If they lose that, then trend start at 69. Netflix has been super dumpy. Yeah, they're trying to hold a higher low off this. If they do hold this swing, this could be a real banger, honestly, all the way back up to our last level that we lost. What is it? 483 or so. That would be a nice little trade. If they lose that, then down to where we started, around 310. Then up, made an all-time high, made a higher low. Made a lower low. Did lose the local move. It did bounce properly off this trend. So I would just expect higher. NetEase gained local swing. If they get below here, if they lose this, then go to the start of this at 81 or so. NVIDIA trying to hold a higher low as well. They tested properly. Previous all-time high test. Bounce. Failed. So holding here and going higher makes sense. NXPI also lost its local trend. This thing does look good for lower. We do have a spot around 160. That's I'd say this is not a great spot. It's kind of crappy. Better spot would definitely be here, which is this previous all-time high move at 135. O'Reilly just grinding higher, making higher highs, higher lows. Probably new all-time high on this. Paychecks did gain a local swing after a decent retest. Yeah, I'd expect them to come up and test somewhere around 133 and then all-time high. Looks pretty good for higher. PCAR made higher high in local range. If they do continue to reject, then we have opportunity at 84 or so. Pepsi made all-time high, holding swing. Technically lost the local move. So if they do come down, then it's the start of this at 161. And much lower if they lose that swing. PayPal's been an absolute dumpster fire. Coming down to trend start on this 95, potentially holding our last level gained at 98. Expect a lower on PayPal. Qualcomm at a great spot right now. They already tested it at holding a higher low off this last level gain, previous all-time high at 162. That should make new all-time highs. If they don't hold that, I'd expect below this back down to where they started. Once again, it would be here at 131. Regeneron. This actually looks good for higher. If they don't hold a higher low off this relative swing, then we have a spot to look at right here at 550. Ross looking good for lower. We have a wide range of things to test all the way down to 86. Starbucks losing as well. We do have a gap to fill plus a weekly swing test at 90, 91 or so. If we don't hold there, then I would expect all the way back down to here, 72. SGen tested pretty nicely here. They have been losing and making lower highs. If they hold above this, I would expect a test of this top swing. This one's already tested. If they don't, then we have a spot around 102, which is this move. And then there's a gap to fill if they lose that. Siri made a higher swing high in range and really had a big dump this week. It's coming up on an okay spot at 612. Siri is kind of a dud. Synopsys at a spot as well, holding a higher low off this after making a higher swing high this week, where it is right now. And then going and testing top of range at 360 would be good. If we lose this, then just like always, back to where we started. It'd be 240. Splunk's been pretty wild. They do have a massive gap to fill all the way up to 1. Oh, Splunk got bought out by Cisco this weekend, I think. So we're just going to skip it. Skyworks has lost the move that made all-time high. We have a lot of things to test. If they continue to lose this previous all-time high range, 122, Then we have a swing at 107. And I'd actually expect all the way down to like 88. Trip.com trying to gain, holding here and testing this top of swing would be good. Then this top of swing, if they get above that, then all the way up to here at 30. Let's just call it 40. T-Mobile actually held pretty nicely too after making a lower low. Did make a local high. If they lose this level right here, then we go back to where we started. 104. But this does just kind of look good for higher. Tesla at a spot right now. They lost the move that made the all-time high. So coming back down, if they lose this swing, coming back down to here at 680 would be a real good idea. It's possible they hold the higher spot of the trend, but lower spot of the trend also makes a lot of sense. Take two is a mess. They rejected this swing properly after losing. I really don't like this chart at all. Yeah, if they continue rejecting, it might take a shot at this previous all-time high at 135. This thing is pretty nasty, honestly. Texas Instruments is losing. Yeah. Coming down to 131 would be good. United Airlines to make a higher swing high in local range, should hold a higher low. Well, technically a crappy double bottom. Might be a little bit of opportunity at 42. And that gives you 53. And then 58. And then all the way up to 74. If they lose this, then potentially all the way down to 21. Ulta Beauty lost all-time high swing. They are trying to hold a higher low on it right now. It did hit a good spot this last week. If they don't hold this, then we have spots much lower, including a massive gap all the way down to 208. V-Risk did lose swing. If they break this low on V-Risk, 186, then the expectation would be back to start of trend at 172 or so. VeriSign trying to hold a higher low off this swing as well. Yeah, testing higher to this weekly move that made this all-time high. Your next idea. If they lose, then back down to here. 188. Vertex been blasting. This is an okay spot. I don't know about the stop loss here. You'd have to really dive into that one, but holding 230, 231 and giving us opportunity to test the swing high at 270 would be okay. Walgreens, Boot Alliance. Yeah, there's a gap to fill at the trend start. So if they don't hold this swing, then all the way down to 45. Workday is losing as well. This thing is going to be an absolute dumpster fire if they lose this swing. So we'd have a spot right here at 183. And if not, then somewhere down here. 120-ish. Western Digital did make a lower low and swing after failing to make a high. They're trying to hold a higher low in this last couple weeks. They rejected mid-range. I would like to see this thing continue to fail and get down somewhere around 37. If they do continue to gain higher, rejection around 65 would be pretty cool to do that then. And if they gain this, obviously we have a lot more to test above. Excel Energy Higher lows, lower highs. Higher lows, higher highs. Did that make a higher high in swing? If they get above this, then testing the top range at 74. We do have an untested spot at 63. If they continue lower. Xilinx failed to make all-time high, rejected. Yeah, we have a beautiful spot here at 175. If they lose that, then 155 or so, which again would be the start of this trend that made this all-time high. And our last one is Zoom. Zoom has been a dumpster fire. If this thing continues to lose, I would say we're probably going all the way back to the start, which is a wide range, but all the way back down from 79 to 69. And that's it. All the NASDAQ stocks. Hope you enjoyed. That is, once again, what we do every Sunday for the Tier 3 subs on this channel. I don't do it publicly. I do it in private voice chat, specifically for the Tier 3 subs. So it's a whole Q&A session. People can ask questions as we're going through it. And I do get a little bit more detail, dive in less than the weekly. That was just a weekly review for our weekly review. Thank you, friends.
Thank you for watching and learning with Market Traders TV.